This is Sybrsean's base tour. This base was inspired by Sadamo de Beers and Grey Duster. I've used a lot of the information they provided in their excellent tutorial videos to produce my base. I'm pretty sure I have over 40 solar panels, but I am able to keep the batteries charged that I have. Over here we have a clock tower that's using two sensors, solar sensors, to determine the 24-hour time of day. This side of the base is where the ultimate furnace by Sadamo de Beers is located, along with the stackers that send the ore to it. Out here you can see my waste buffer that cools down the waste from the furnace. These are coolant lines for the large gas tanks that I have to keep all the gas at the same temperature, and my hydroponics. I did install a turret. It doesn't seem to do anything other than be able to turn. It doesn't fire. I did this airlock as a two-spacer, not realizing that there would be an issue with the gas pressure sensor and the active vent being on opposite sides. So when you go to evacuate all the air when exiting, it takes a very, very long time for the gas pressure sensor to finally say that the room is empty, since it's sucking across two squares. This is the main base. I call it the living quarters. Over on this side we have the chicken coop. All the logic and circuitry and chutes were all taken from Sadamo de Beers' build. I did have an issue that I haven't figured out how to deal with when there were chickens in here and they were laying eggs. I left it here for about half a day and came back to this entire corner being filled with eggs. I don't know how to stop that from happening other than killing the chickens, which didn't seem possible with any tools. I ended up having to suffocate them in the room to get them to stop laying eggs. It made for a good chicken dinner, however. I have light switches in every room, so I can turn the power off to conserve, the lights off to conserve power. Each room has a back pressure regulator and a pressure regulator to keep the air in each room the same. There's also active vents in some rooms. Over on this side I have the galley with some storage. The cereal bars here are not indicative of me making a bunch of cereal bars. They're actually there because I've died that many times and put the cereal bars in there. I have made a baked potato though. The living quarter rooms, I've tried to put in the sleepers and the suit storage, but I haven't connected any of these to figure out how they work or what they do. I do have this little issue with it pausing occasionally while I'm playing, and I haven't figured out why I have a low frame rate with a 1080 Ti. Down on the end here we have the security room, where I'm hoping that at some point in the game they'll introduce cameras and video so that you could have a security room where you can monitor what's going on around your base. And I will eventually install some more cabinets for energy pistols. Over on this side we have the medical bay with cryo tubes that again aren't in working condition in the game yet. This is the clock. It's a 24-hour military clock. The sun seems to come up just a little bit before 6 and go down at 1800. These doors are on motion sensors, so they open and close behind me. The battery room contains 20 batteries. It's capable of holding 72 megawatts, and currently is decreasing since it's night. There is sufficient power to completely recharge the batteries. The room gets extraordinarily hot, so the coolers run almost all the time. I've set the room up so that there's 12 power headers, 12 transformers, each with a battery backup on each, with LEDs to show how much power is being used by each individual power circuit, which are all labeled on the side. It would be nice if the signs also were able to be placed where LED wires are now currently in the way. Maybe that's something that they could address at some point. For now, it's just something to work around. I have some additional power headers that aren't being monitored by their individual transformers or power circuits. These main power headers are for the gas storage main and for the furnace room. So there's individual heavy cables that go off to another set of 3 transformers on each of these power headers. Behind every set of rooms, I do have a maintenance corridor. This also is where the ore that my friend mined, I've stuck it temporarily while I was building. Down this one, you can see some of the logic that I put in for the LEDs to show the power circuits draw. This set of circuitries for having the lights on the outside of the building turn on at night. Down here we have my 2 solid fuel generators. They are not automated yet, which I hope to do at some point, although I've got to figure out where to put the circuitry for it, because I've run out of room in these even in these corridors. And some of the solar logic is on this wall as well. Just a quick peek down this corridor, so you can see the back side of the chicken coop. Again, I just did this to make things easier to access and wire and change. The transformer in here, all the transformers obviously make a lot of noise. I wish that they would do something to make it so that the walls became a sound barrier of some sort, so that it wasn't quite so loud in the main spaces when this is behind a wall. Sorry, one of my little pauses that happens occasionally. Forgot to turn off the lights. Next we'll head out to my industrials area. All of this area is in vacuum. To the right here we have the tool room where all the printers are, some recycling, fabricator, Also in this room, all the furnaces, the arc furnaces, which you'll see in a second, and the gas furnace, those all output their ores or alloys to this feed. Stick some more in here. This goes to the arc furnaces just for smelting regular ores. So we can see that not all of them are working. They're not all dropping items in as they should. If there's any kind of exhaust gas from these furnaces, there's a active vent that through circuitry turns on, so these rooms are sealable to make sure that you get that air or those exhaust gases. This is Sadamo de Ber's ultimate furnace. The entire floor is covered in circuitry and logic. Sadamo did a great job explaining everything, and that made it possible for me to kind of condense the separate sections he showed in his tutorial into a smaller space that fit my base. However, it was larger than this room, and I did end up having to dig down underneath and place some additional logic downstairs here. Sorry for the mess. Out here is where the stackers are. There's logic under here to deal with how the stackers function. I haven't quite worked out, there is a problem when I try to prime these with 500 ore. Some of these stackers will only release the set requested called amount of ores to make the alloy. Some of them, however, just feed the full 500 all the way through, and I need someone to be pushing the button while I'm watching the logic happen to sort that out, which I haven't had time to do. Down this corridor, we have the gas storage room and atmospherics. I have some consoles on the wall that show current pressure and temperature of the tanks. All the filtration rolls down into the large storage tanks that I have. The mixing for atmosphere happens off the lines that head out and up to the cooling towers for each individual tank, so that all the tanks are at their lowest possible temperatures, and then I draw off those lines to mix my oxygen-nitrogen mix. This logic makes sure that the pressure that is maintained in the line from the mix is at a set 105. There's a buffer tank here from when I was trying to do a mix separate mix setup that I had in here, but it was not working as I wanted it to, so I've simplified everything to be just as it is. And then this room is for preheating the air before the atmosphere before it goes into the base. Since all the gases are cooled to their lowest possible temperatures, I was using this room to preheat the air before it gets sucked into the inlet for the entire base's oxygen nitrogen mix. I have it turned off right now because I was testing whether or not I even needed to heat the mix anymore. With the batteries causing temperature changes, and all the transformers and all the other equipment that's in the base. The base tends to heat up on its own a little bit. So I've been testing that. We'll head out to the exterior here. This is the waste tank system. It's all coming from the furnace, the arc furnaces, and from all the back pressure regulators from the rooms. All of that gets cooled in a loop here and in buffer tanks before heading to the atmospheric room on the other side for filtration and separation. And then these are the radiators that are cooling each individual tank line. This is the hydroponics room. I did have some plants in here, so it's not 100% CO2 anymore. There's a little bit of oxygen that hasn't gotten sucked back in through the filtration system. I do have 2 active vents so that I can pressurize the room quickly or depressurize it if needed. And then lastly, I'll show you what essentially is the graveyard. I found that doing this solo, I wanted to do such a big build, I wasn't really paying that much attention to oxygen and hunger and all of those aspects of the game. So died quite a few times. And this is all the remnants from that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my video, and please post any comments.